In 2023, I spent a total of Hello, my name is Kayla. If you're new here, this channel is all about building a life of freedom through financial freedom. In this video, I'll be reviewing my 2023 budget, including how much I earned, spent, and saved. I'll also be sharing my budgeting lessons from 2023 and how I am budgeting for 2024. In the video I posted last year about my 2023 budget plan, I also shared some background information about myself to set the context. Here's a quick recap if you didn't catch that video. I am based in Singapore. Towards the end of last year, I turned 30 years old. My main source of income is my day job. I live in an apartment with my husband. We took out a loan for this apartment, which we are paying for using money in our Central Provident Fund or CPF accounts. The money in our CPF accounts are not accessible except for purposes of retirement, housing, education, and healthcare. So you won't see items that are paid for via my CPF account in my budget, which focuses only on managing my take-home pay. For anything that I spend together with my husband, such as food and household items, we share the cost together. With that context in mind, let's get into the numbers. I earned a total of $64,593.77 from my day job. This is my pre-tax take-home pay after mandatory contributions to my CPF account. If you watched this video, I shared that I got a free iPad for a credit card sign-up through SingSaver. I didn't have a use for the iPad, so my husband helped me to sell it online for $400. I split the profits with him and pocketed $200. All in all, I earned a total of $64,793.77. Before I share my actual expenses, let's recap the budget I had planned out in 2023. My total budget for living expenses last year was $19,005.32. I organized the items in my budget into monthly expenses for things I pay every month and ad hoc expenses for things I pay sporadically throughout the year. I also have a fund of $2,500 intended for the replacement of essential big-ticket items, such as a phone, laptop, or household appliances, and a fund of $10,000 for emergencies. Here's the breakdown of my expenses within each category in comparison to the budget I had catered. My fixed expenses came in as expected, with the exception of my life insurance payment, which was less than what I was supposed to be paying as there was a discount applied to my premium in that year. For variable expenses, I had a total of 8 categories. Food included groceries and eating out. The $300 budget was intended to cater a larger proportion for groceries and a smaller proportion for eating out. Overall, I overspent slightly by about $77. Out of 12 months, I exceeded my budget on 8 of those months, with an average overspending of $33 per month. For the remaining 4 months, I was well within budget with an average of $47 left over per month. In those months that I overspent, I was eating out and getting takeouts a lot more often than I was making my own meals at home. A primary reason for this could have been poor energy management on my part. I was balancing a few priorities last year, and when things got busy, I deprioritized sleep and exercise, which affected my energy levels. Most of the time, I settled for eating out and takeout meals because I was too tired to meal prep. These meals in turn made me more tired due to the lack of nutrition and their greasiness, and the cycle repeats itself. I wasn't taking care of myself, and that showed up in my food spending patterns. The next category in my budget is personal care products, which included skin and hair products, vitamins, and supplements. 2023 was the year I started picking up a skincare routine again after not doing so for 2 to 3 years during the pandemic. Although I was well within budget last year, I have to admit that $100 per month might have been too luxurious a budget, as I went overboard buying skincare products. I now have enough to last the first 6 months of 2024 without any further purchases. The lesson here is that purchasing much more than I could use before the expiration date would lead to wastage of product and money. Also, spending upfront for something I only need much later on means sacrificing potential interest on the money had I kept it in a high-interest savings account. The next category is household, which included housing fees and household products like detergent. I share the cost of household-related expenses with my husband, and I was well within budget last year. The next category is transportation. This included public transportation and the occasional private transportation ride when needed. I'm glad that it went as planned and I was within budget last year. The next category is my fun fund, which included leisure and things I want but do not need. This was something new that I introduced in 2023. On this journey to achieve financial freedom, it's easy to become caught up in the game of cutting my expenses to increase my savings rate. So this fund was a reminder to enjoy life even as I work towards my goal of financial freedom. However, I severely underutilized this fund last year. On the occasions that I touched this fund, it was to pay for movie tickets and accessories for a Samsung tablet gifted to me by a relative. Even though last year was pretty hectic on the work front, and even though I did not fully utilize the fund, I wouldn't say that I didn't honor the spirit behind the fund. I realized it's just that during the times when I let loose and have fun, I often find fun in simple things that are free, like cycling, hiking, making music, watching videos on free streaming platforms like YouTube. Also, in hindsight, $100 a month was actually too much for fun, especially when compared to my budget for other categories like food. The next category is travel. I want to travel at least once every year, so I have this as part of my yearly budget. Last year, I used up all of my budget on one long trip to China with my family. Catch the vlog here if you're interested. The next category is gifts. This is a pool of money to spend on the people in my life, especially for events like birthdays, birth of newborns, weddings, and family gatherings. Unfortunately, I went beyond my budget last year and overspent by about $280. There were more events than usual last year, and thankfully the savings in other categories helped to make up for the overspending in this area. I don't regret spending a little bit more on people who are important to me, as long as I don't go too far out of budget. The last category is miscellaneous needs. This is for the replacement of essential items like clothing and other ad hoc items that I need. This was deliberately kept small to avoid unnecessary, mindless purchases that I don't need. I'm happy that I was within budget last year. I also dipped into my fund for essential big-ticket items to replace a phone I have been using for 5 years. I spent about $1,380 on the new phone, which I admit is pretty expensive compared to the $500 phone I was using before. However, this was a deliberate decision as I wanted to film for this channel and other projects, and the camera quality was the main reason behind the purchase. Aside from these expenses, I also spent about $1,422 on a few online training courses to pick up new knowledge and skills. I didn't budget for these, so I had to dip into my savings to pay for them. This experience made me realize that investing in myself is something that I really value, and it's something I want to make room for in future budgets. Lastly, for my emergency fund, I am fortunate that I did not have to dip into this last year. All in all, my total expenses came up to $19,927.70. This is 30.8% of my take-home pay. I did overspend for some categories, but I managed to keep my total spending within my overall budget. I saved a total of $44,866.07. This is 69.2% of my income, and this savings rate was within my target. In terms of savings allocation, about 2.6% of it went to my endowment policy. About 13% went into my high-interest savings account, where my emergency and essential big-ticket item funds are kept. And the remaining 84.4% went into my brokerage accounts for investments and trading. Reviewing and reflecting on my spending allows me to pinpoint problems that I wasn't immediately aware of at the point in time. problems that were not related to money but were actually manifesting in my spending patterns. It also prompted me to think about whether things I thought I needed or wanted were really relevant or valuable to me in the past year. These insights are helpful as it allows me to update my budget plan for 2024 to align with my new needs, wants, and goals. For 2024, I estimate that the take-home income from my day job would come in around $61.5 to $66.5 thousand. For my monthly and yearly budget, the categories remain largely the same, with some updates. Let's start off with fixed expenses. For monthly fixed expenses, I am increasing the amount of money from my parents from $400 to $500. For taxes, right now I am budgeting $160 for it, but might have to adjust this in March or April, which is when the final tax bill for income earned in 2023 comes in. For ad hoc fixed expenses, the budget for my life insurance policy remains at $1,120. Moving on to variable expenses, for food, I am keeping the total amount the same as last year, at $300. However, this year I am separating it into two categories, groceries and dining out. I have allocated 2/3 of it, or $200, to groceries to ensure I eat healthier by eating more meals at home. The remaining 1/3, or $100, is for eating out. For personal care products, since I overpurchased my skincare products last year and have enough to last quite some time, I reduced my budget for this category from $100 to $60 a month. For transportation, I raised my budget from $60 to $70 a month as there has been a slight increase in the cost of public transportation since the end of last year. For household, I am keeping this the same as last year at $90. Based on last year's experience, I no longer have the fund under my monthly budget. Instead, I have moved it to my ad hoc budget and reduced the amount to $300 for the entire year. For travel, I increased this from $2,500 to $2,800. I value the experience of traveling and want to do more of that this year. For gifts, I am keeping it the same as last year at $930. For miscellaneous needs, I am also keeping this the same as last year at $150. Lastly, I added a new category for learning. This is to cater for any learning opportunities I want to take up. If there's something that I really want to learn but goes beyond $1,000, I am prepared to shift some money around within my budget or top it up from my savings. So all in all, my budget for monthly expenses adds up to $1,180 per month, or $14,160 in a year. And my budget for ad hoc expenses adds up to $6,300. This makes my total budget for the year come up to $20,460. With this, my target savings rate, based on the lower end of my estimated income, is 66%, or $41,040. As for savings allocation, my plan is to allocate $98.94 every month to my endowment policy, $500 every month to a joint savings fund with my husband. We're planning for a potential intermediate term expense, and we are contributing $500 each every month. $200 every month to my essential big ticket item fund, until I replenish the amount that I took out for the purchase of my phone last year. And the remaining amount will go to my brokerage accounts for investments and trading. That's it for my budget update. If you are interested in learning how to budget, watch this video for a simple 5-step process.